Finally, I was able to get on.
It took you some while, some time.
Yeah.
Oh, we got another participant here. Oh, it's Mr. Foster. Let me see here. It says Foster Root. Are you in the pack here, Mr. Foster? Can you see us?
Yep, I can see you.
Oh, fantastic. And here I thought I was going to have to deal with all of your obituaries.
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm being paid to come on to this little Zoom meeting.
You said you weren't going to tell anybody.
Oh, you're missing the point, Richard. The point is very simple. There's a lot of people that don't like you, and they paid me to get onto Zoom and make your entire thing here not worth the effort.
Well, why don't I just hand this over to you, and you can be moderator, and they can hate your ass.
That's okay. You keep going ahead. You're doing a great job, Richard.
Gary, you're not smiling.
I'm just listening.
I know. Are you a lurker or are you a participant?
I'm just been
Curious?
I usually do my afternoon walks at this time, so I haven't been able to catch up and join, but I would earlier the day. So.
Oh, good for you.
So,
well, yeah, last week nobody showed up, and
I tried to get in, but it was too late.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I could hear you guys, but I couldn't get in.
Well, there is, this is all technology here. There is a problem if nobody shows up, and I've waited for 10 or 15 minutes. I may cancel the meeting and start over and do something, record something that I wanted to talk, but I don't remember that I did that. I did that with Dave Kirkpatrick. I'll get it right, David Falstich, and we got him confused. So I'm sorry you had trouble getting on. So we don't have an agenda. We generally, for the lurkers and the non-technical people, we usually ask the new folks, I normally ask the new folks to tell us what you've been doing for the last 50 years. And so, Gary, I'll give you the floor unless you just want to have a conversation.
I was just, live in Walkersville, Maryland. Which is probably 2 hours from Clinton. So in my
is that Montgomery County?
No, it's PG. I'm in Frederick County.
You're in Frederick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Been here for 35 years. And I think you remember my mother was the art teacher for our last 4 years, and then she passed away about 4 or 5 years after I left, graduated and went on. And my dad went and designed and built a house down in Leonardtown, Maryland. And that's where he stayed. And my sister, who was a graduate in '60, Sally, came down to help him out and take care of him. and he passed away at the age of 94.
94. In 94 or at 94?
At 94.
My goodness
Back
gracious.
in 2012.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
What year was he born?
yeah, 17.
17. He and my mother were the same age. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's buried up in the annex up in Gettysburg. Both my parents are there. So,
Are they from Pennsylvania?
originally, yes. My dad was adopted, and my mother was, I'm not sure if she was born in Pennsylvania or not, but her parents moved from Iowa, and he became a professor at the University of Pittsburgh.
Mm.
And if you remember the old weekly reader we used to get in
Oh,
elementary
yeah,
school,
yeah.
well, he was
Hated
one
that
of the
thing.
editors of it.
He was
and
one
I
of
used
the editors.
Yeah, I used to circle his name on the back of the paper that had the people listed at the bottom.
Oh, that's
Hey,
fantastic.
that's my grandfather, you know.
Yeah,
So,
that's,
Oh, you were a name dropper back in elementary school then, is that what you're saying?
no, I don't think I told too many people about it, but it was just neat to see his name back there and know he
Yeah.
contributed to it. So, after I left school, went to University of Maryland, joined a fraternity, and flunk out. And went to California to try all over again, and Uncle Sam called me.
mm-hmm.
Went into the Marine Corps, and while I was down Paris Island, they found I had a bone cyst in my shoulder, so they gave me a medical discharge.
I'm sorry, you had what in your shoulder?
A bone cyst is a hole in the
Oh,
bone.
bone cyst. I got it.
And I said, well, what can I do about it? And they said, nothing. Keep breaking it and it might fill in. I said, that didn't sound too great.
David Falstich just joined us. Hi, Dave.
Hi there.
Gary Hayes has got the floor here. He's taken us up. He's left high school, went to Maryland, and then went to California. And Uncle Sam called him, and that's when you rang the doorbell. So I had to divert my attention. Gary, you had some shoulder problems, and that got you out of the Marine Corps.
Yeah, and I married Nancy Taylor, who was a class of '63, and went to work for Sears and went back to school and ended up getting my college degree in criminology.
Criminology.
Yeah.
Where from?
And American University.
Oh, shabby school. Sorry about that.
Well, I got my associate's degree at Montgomery Junior College. Tried to get into Maryland, but I would have lost too many credits. So I went to American University, where they gave me all my credits and finished up my 2 years there.
Excellent, excellent.
So I got my Bachelor of Science in the Administration of Justice. Decided to join the police department. Tried to get in PG, didn't get in there. Tried to get in Baltimore City, couldn't get in there. So then I went, tried the back door. So I got into DC Corrections. And I was a prison guard down in Lorton for about a year.
What was that prison like? Let me divert you for a second.
Lorton was both a medium security and a maximum security.
That's what I thought. I thought it was full of mean people.
Oh, they had some nice people down. So after that, I was able to join the Prince George's Sheriff's Department. Worked in their detention center for about a year. And my application I had in with Montgomery County finally got accepted. So I went to Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. And that's where I spent the next 25 years.
But somebody told me somewhere, somehow, that you worked your way up to the tippy top. Is that right?
Yeah, I started out as a private, and after 25 years, well, not quite all that, but I finally made it to captain. Worked in every single department, and I met my second wife there.
Let me interrupt you again. Was your oh gosh, I'm sorry, having trouble with memory. I got a log jam.
We're all that way.
It had to do with oh shoot, you met your second wife.
Yeah.
I'll,
Well, Nancy,
I'll think about it in a minute. Go ahead.
Nancy Taylor was my first wife. We were married for about 7 years. Had 2 children, 2 boys. One died at 10 days after birth, and she just never could get over the fact of that event, and went into a deep depression, and ended up having suicidal tendencies, and ended in a mental institution until she died about probably 10 or 15 years later.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Did you all ever divorce or?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, that seems to be practical more so than emotional.
Yeah. So my son lives in Florida. He has a wife and two kids, a boy and a girl. And my current wife, Margaret, she had 4 kids and 2 of each, 2 girls, 2 boys. But now we have 14 great grandkids. I should say 13. The 14th is due this February. So.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure I could tell the difference between 13 and 14 grandkids running around at one time.
Well, they're all over the place. I got grandkids in Florida, Texas. I got one that's in the Air Force in England now because he spent a year in Korea. And as a reward for being there for a year, he has 3 years in England now, which he can extend for another 3 years if he wants to. His dad is in the Air Force. His brother is in the Coast Guard, and he's stationed in Florida, and he's married to a beautiful young lady who is also in the Coast Guard. And she's just finishing up her class, making the rank of petty officer.
Super.
So they're going to be getting together again because she's out in California right now, and he's down in Florida. And he's now a Coast Guard investigator.
Mm.
So he's all tending buoys to now looking for drug runners.
CSI type, huh?
Correct.
Yeah. I think I remembered what I wanted to ask you. When somewhere along the line, I thought that you were the sheriff, and
Yeah.
and then I realized that's an elected position in Florida. Is it there?
Correct.
In Maryland?
In Maryland, yeah, all states has an elected sheriff, each county.
And so where does a captain fit in the hierarchy?
The sheriff has his chief deputy, and then the rank of captain came after that, and well, got really added on later as we grew from a 50-man office up to 100 and some, and picked up more duties. He then got himself legislated 2 assistant sheriffs. So he appointed 2 majors, one to do the legal side and the other one to take care of personnel issues.
So how many departments did your sheriff's department have?
Well, originally we had the detention center, but then that broke off and became a separate unit.
Mm-hmm.
And the county police actually was started by 5 deputies to get them going, and they took over major investigations and the highway duties. We made the sheriff's department is the only law enforcement agency that can get involved in civil cases.
Hmm.
So not only do we have a criminal division, we have a civil division. We also were, as you can see, security for the courthouses.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Did they handle subpoenas and evictions and things like that?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
any court order that came out
Yeah.
came out, only sheriffs can handle because that's a civil action.
Yeah. Yeah.
Besides court bench warrants that would come off, then the sheriff would have handled the bench warrants.
Pretty cool.
And
Pretty
so
cool.
we had our own fugitive squad. And about around the time that before I left, we created our own SWAT team.
Mm.
We had an incident that I was involved in as the night watchman that we tried to go, we had a court order to go do a child snatch. And when we went there and tried to get inside, the gentleman had a gun, ran off into a back room. We cordoned the place off and was talking to him, and called in the county. The county sent their SWAT team in. They sort of pushed us to the background and went marching down the hallway. The next thing we know, we heard shots go off, and the gentleman killed himself, and there was 2 small kids in the back room.
Were they in?
Also, so that made us say we were going to have our, because we complained that they wouldn't let us handle it. We thought we had it done. And they said, well, try out for our SWAT team. And our people did. And we ended up having our own separate team. And when I left after 25 years, they had responded to more call outs than the actual county police did.
Mm. Mm.
So,
So you have some pretty good negotiators on the team?
That was part of their training. They also were we were involved in domestic violence issues where we would go with court orders and remove people from their homes, confiscate all their weapons they may have until they went to court. And then it was up to the judge to determine whether or not to keep the order enforced or give back the weapons and go another route.
Wow.
So like I said, we seem to do it all.
Yeah. Well, thank you. In the interest of time, I'd like to ask Phil if he wants to pontificate. I mean, tell his story. Are you awake there, Phil? You're not moving.
I am awake. I am awake. I was just thinking about the time that sheriff's office SWAT team raided my house there in Montgomery County, and what a terrifying experience it was.
Was that the county police SWAT team?
No, it was the sheriff's. I'm kidding, Gary. I'm kidding.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing you had another reason to shit your pants.
That's right. No, but I can tell a couple stories about my brother being kicked off the PG County Police Force for being excessively violent, I believe.
Oh.
And then he then spent the rest of his life on disability and was able to work and do.
Whoops. He froze up.
He went
Wake
dark.
up, Phil.
He must have
Stuff
drove
like
off
that,
somewhere.
like the snow.
Oh, there.
Oh, okay.
Now he's back.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I wonder what that was all about.
You need a metronome going back and forth so we can tell you haven't
Well,
froze up.
it's kind of funny because a little thing popped up underneath your chin and it said the system is unstable, and the word unstable was right underneath you. I wonder.
Well, I'm in gallery view, so I can see each of you. And and by the way, I am recording this. If anybody has an objection, I'm going to have to learn how to do face fuzz outs.
I wonder what view I'm in.
Well, Phil, do you recall our last encounter?
Or which encounter?
What the last encounter that we had? It was at a party in an apartment in South where I lived, or near where I lived, down in Southeast near Southeast Washington. Remember, I came to the door to go into a party, and there was this big guy there standing there with a beard, and you said, "You don't recognize me, do you?" And I said, "Nope," because the Phil that I remembered was a tall, thin guy, not a big guy with a beard.
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, it was. So you went to Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
That was right after you had come back. It was not too long after you had come back. And for some reason or another, you knew the people that were hosting the party, and they happened to be friends of ours too. I can't think of their last name.
And this was in DC, like down in Southwest DC?
It was at the, I want to say Arbor Verde Apartments. Is that right? No. As you went down Branch Avenue, and just before you crossed into the district and went underneath the Suitland Parkway, there were some apartments up on the right-hand side.
Okay.
And it was up there.
Oh. No, I don't remember that.
Yeah. It was because I mean, I knocked on the door and this guy said, "What are you doing here?" Or something to that effect. And I look at you, I was just completely clueless.
Well, you had no idea why you were there, right?
I had no idea I mean, I wouldn't have recognized you until you told me what your name was. I wouldn't have recognized you at all.
That is true because at the 10-year reunion, I won the award for the most change.
No.
I guess when you add about 65 pounds or 70 pounds onto you, you do look a little different. But
Well, I'm looking at all of us here. I think we've all probably gained a couple of pounds since those days.
I've gained weight, and not only have I gained it, but it's started shifting around. And it's now all being centered down here in my stomach. My arms are getting skinnier, my legs are getting skinnier, my stomach is getting huge. So, but
Yeah, it's called the center of gravity.
that's right. I'm no longer the center of the universe. I'm just the center of gravity.
So tell all your fans out there, Phil, what did you do after graduation from high school?
I went to the University of Maryland and flunked out.
Wait a minute, you were in Easton Hall with Larry and me.
I was in Easton Hall with you and Larry, but that was the second year, not the first year.
Oh, okay.
So I flunked out, and then I set out a semester, and I came back again, and I flunked out again. And then I went into the Army and got out of the Army 3 years later and went back to the University of Maryland and graduated. I would not let all those D's and F's stop me from graduating. So I got a job at Goddard Space Flight Center while I was going to school, and I got the job through Larry Munyon, and went to school during the day and then worked at night as a computer operator. And when I finished there and I graduated, I transferred out of the computer operations over into human resources, and I worked in human resources for 30 years.
What was your degree in, Phil?
The degree was in European history. I had spent a year and a half over in Europe as an instructor. I was a military intelligence analyst, and we were giving classes to NATO troops, and we would travel all over Europe, and then we'd give these classes, and I enjoyed it. And so when I came back, I decided I wanted to teach high school.
Did you have any particular base in Europe that your home base, I guess you might want to call it that?
We were stationed up in Stuttgart, and we were at the 66 Military Intelligence Group headquarters, which was an old German Army World War I cavalry post, right in the middle of this little German town called Bad Cannstatt. And it was interesting. It really was interesting. It was a great place to be stationed.
Did you each get a horse stall to work out of?
No, that was turned into motor pools.
Yeah, they each got a Porsche.
I have a great story about one of the idiots that re-enlisted to get his $10,000 bonus and went down to the Porsche factory, which was about 10 miles away, and bought a brand new Porsche, had it for 3 days, and went peeling around the corner and ran sideways into a telephone pole and bent his axle and totaled his car.
Ooh.
And the funny thing about it is he didn't have any insurance. And the funny thing about that is all you got to do is go to a German post office, fill out a 3x5 card, and mail it in, and you have insurance. That's it. And he didn't even bother to do that. And he had 3 more years to spend in the Army. And I guess his middle name became Dumbfuck or something like that. But anyway, so yeah, and then we went to London, and we went to West Berlin and down to Venice and in Italy and where else? Yeah, I guess it was then up into the northern part of Germany where we gave briefings to the British troops who were up there. And then the Canadians were down in the southwest corner, and we gave briefings to them. And what we gave briefings on were basically the structures of the East German Bloc and Russian armies, their logistics and weaponry and organization and training and all that kind of stuff. And so I enjoyed it. And then when I went back to school, I got into secondary ed. And then about a year before I was to graduate, PG County fired about half of their teachers because the baby boom was over, and there was absolutely no opportunity for me to get a teaching job. So I changed a few credits, and then that way I got out of the secondary ed college and went into the arts and sciences college, and finally graduated. And then I sat there trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do with the rest of my life. And my boss at the time suggested that I get into human resources. And I said, what the hell is human resources? Because I had no idea. When they hired me right out there at the operations plant. So I never even went through human resources. But I applied for a job over at CSC, and they eventually took me, and then the rest is history.
Well, that was with NASA, where you were a computer operator.
I was working for Computer Sciences Corporation, who was contracting at NASA.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But you spent,
and that's where I met my wife too.
Cool. You spent a long time in HR, didn't you?
30 years, yeah.
Yeah. And what was the T-shirt that you wore when you were hanging tapes on the major computer at Goddard?
I had
Something about a pig.
it was a Macon Bacon T-shirt, and it had two pigs fucking. You
I'll
remember
never
that,
forget
huh?
that. So I still have a few gray cells.
Yeah, yeah. You remember the really important stuff.
I'm an aficionado for alliteration.
Look at
I got a question for you, Dickie. Whatever happened to your brother Bobby? I haven't.
He passed away in 2015. He came here. Actually, just a quick overview. Oh, before I forget, I'm getting a notice here I have to clear. I talked to Bob Jeter this morning on the phone, and he recommended a book. Oh God, now forget it. Anyway, it was about an officer in World War II who was with the 3rd Armored, and he was the armored vehicle maintenance liaison, and his whole job was to assess tanks that had been hit by the Germans and get them back behind, back to American lines and get replacement tanks. And I'm excited, even though I'm just in the introduction. Okay, end of that story. Bob was born 4 years ahead of me. He married Lorraine Peterson from Marcus Drive? Yeah, Marquis Drive. And they had 2 kids, and then he and she divorced. He went out to California. He was good with his hand-eye coordination, and he took the art route, and he got a job.
The reason I asked was because he tried to teach me how to play pool down in the basement of our house. I remember him being very good with his hands and his eyes and with a cue stick, and
he was always trying to
be curious. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why. He just tried to prove his mental acuity by teaching other people. But anyway, I have a quick story. He married well out in California, and then he screwed that up and ended up being divorced, married somebody else. And anyway, he ended up in my father's house after in here in Florida, after he got drunk and he was out of work for like 3 years, and his wife was pissing him off, and he said, "I'll get you back," and he shot himself and missed. He looked like this, because his whole face looked like he had a stroke. In any event, he had picked up 3 or 4 paintings at MGM or one of those studios, and they were movie poster type paintings. They were montages done by really high quality artists, and he gave me 3 or 4. And a couple of years ago, Judy and I decided to find out how to, how to auction them off. And I think one of the paintings, which was about Kelly's Heroes, and I can show you pictures of it. It's a fantastic picture. Sold for $25,000. The other 2 paintings brought about $1,300 each, but that was a nice windfall. That paid for one of our trips to, well, it should have paid for one of the trips to Europe, but it went for other things. I have to turn on another light. Sorry, I'm long-winded. I'm working with a green screen. You know how a green screen works?
Yep, that's always very obvious too.
What's very obvious?
When someone is using them, even on TV.
Oh,
They've gotten much better in the last couple of years, but the up until about 2-3 years ago, it was so obvious that it made people look odd.
I can see you, but you can't see me.
Mm.
It's an $18 apple green tablecloth, 12 by 9. I got it screwed up so you can't see my shit.
And then every single one of the photographs that you have, there's a whole bunch of green in the photographs. So, yep.
Yeah, I like flowers.
Sure do.
Yeah. Okay, it looks like we've been on for 35 minutes.
Ooh.
We can, oh. You want to tell a story about your bonsai?
Since we moved down here to San Diego, we no longer have the flowers, but we used to have up there in San Jose, where I used to have to buy about $150 worth of daffodils every year.
Oh, wow.
I did manage to bring down 6 of my bonsai, and that were left after 30 or so I had back there. But flowers, we have as many as we can squeeze out on our patio, and that's about it these days.
Yeah, yeah. Well, did your daffodils didn't multiply and
No, not in San Jose. It never got cold enough.
Oh, yeah. I'm really sad I can't grow tulips and bulbs like that.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So you told me one time that you went on vacation and lost a whole bunch of your bonsai plants.
Oh yeah, rat ate the wire that ran all of the sprinkler heads, all of the little sprinkler units, and I had, I think at the time, 35 of them, and I ended up with maybe about 10, I guess, when it was all over with.
Mm.
Luckily, the oldest one I have, which is a tree, which is probably about 75 years old now, survived. And but that one, now I'm down to 6. I just picked up a couple new ones here just recently. Just find a hole in the patio to stick them.
I just don't, how should I put it? I don't like container gardens that don't have much container. I'm not that good.
You gotta, every day, man, you got to worry about them every single day.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll dry up and turn into wind chimes.
Yeah. So, anybody else have anything you want to chat about? Anybody, Gary, that you would like to see on our little mini reunion?
Hopefully, more people will say, "Hey, try it out and see what's going, how it is." I mean, this stupid virus is keeping us all indoors, so there isn't much we can do about our meetings. I mean, the last one I went to was the 50th, and yes, it'd be nice to get together for a 75th or something. If we can make it to it.
How about 75th birthday instead?
Counting on that, knocking on wood, and hope everybody else is in good health.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I have to worry about now is my back, and I had double knee replacements. So I got titanium knees that cause them fits at the TSA at the airports.
Oh yeah, my wife finds me the most annoying person in the world when I go through the TSA checkpoints.
They don't require anything anymore.
Well, if you go through the newer ones now, where you stand there with your arms crossed like this,
yeah,
they usually don't check you afterwards. But if you go through the old ones where you gotta do where the detects the metal, then they still have to frisk you.
Oh yeah.
They
Well,
don't like CPAP units either.
What's that?
a CPAP.
CPAP units.
Oh, yeah.
I went traveling and I had a whole gallon of distilled water in my bag to take with me for my vacation. And they did not like the fact that I was giving them fits about them wanting to open it up to test the water.
Right after 9/11, when they really clamped down on everything, I had one trip to Spain where the guy was coming from Taiwan. We met, and his luggage hadn't shown up. And they told us to come back and to pick it up. And when we got back to the airport, he said, "Oh," she said, the girl said, "Oh, the luggage is here." And then she walked down this hall and she opened up the area to the bonded storage area and said, here, David, you hold the door open while we go in there. And so they went in there. One person could be in there. He should not have been in there. And I should not have been the one holding the door open to the bonded area. And then after that, I ended up in Spain, no, up in Italy rather. And when we